The Devil's Dance card, a nun possessed, Sister Josephine Rosenthal. A name whispered in hushed tones, a nun who stared into the abyss of evil. A woman tormented by forces beyond human comprehension. This is the story of her dance with demons. It's a story that chills the soul, a story that lingers long after the telling. What happened within the walls of that abbey? What secrets died with Sister Josephine? This is a journey into the heart of darkness, a chilling exploration of faith, possession, and the relentless power of the demonic. Prepare yourself. A life dedicated to light. The path to sisterhood. Josephine Rosenthal, born into a world of faith, a young girl drawn to the light. She sought solace within the church walls. A life of service called to her. She entered the abbey as a young woman. Josephine yearned for spiritual devotion. She took her vows with unwavering conviction, dedicated her life to God's service. She became Sister Josephine, a beacon of piety and grace. But darkness finds even the purest souls. The abbey was her sanctuary, a place of peace, a place of prayer. She found comfort in rituals. She found solace in scriptures. Josephine believed herself safe within the abbey's walls. She was wrong. Evil was lurking, waiting for its moment. Josephine's devotion would soon be tested. Whispers in the abbey, the first demonic encounter. The air grew cold. Shadows danced. The ancient walls of the abbey seemed to close in, as if they were alive, breathing with a sinister energy. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shapes that twisted and turned, creating an atmosphere thick with dread. A presence manifested within the abbey. It was not just any presence, but something dark, something malevolent. The very essence of evil seemed to seep through the cracks of the old stone walls, filling the air with an oppressive weight. Sister Josephine felt it first. Her intuition, honed by years of devotion and prayer, alerted her to the unnatural force. She could sense the shift in the atmosphere, the way the air seemed to thicken with an unseen menace. A chill down her spine. It was as if icy fingers had brushed against her skin, leaving a trail of goosebumps in their wake. The cold was not just physical, it penetrated her very soul. A whisper in the darkness. It started subtly. At first, it was barely audible, like the rustling of leaves in a distant forest. But soon, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, filling her mind with a cacophony of sinister voices. Strange occurrences plagued the abbey. Objects moved inexplicably. Chairs would slide across the floor, books would fall from shelves, and doors would creak open on their own. The nuns tried to dismiss these events as mere coincidences, but deep down, they knew something was terribly wrong. Whispers echoed in the halls. Nuns reported seeing shadows, dark, fleeting figures that seemed to vanish the moment they were spotted. The once peaceful abbey had become a place of fear and uncertainty. Flickering lights added to the growing unease. Then came the nightmares, vivid, terrifying dreams, dreams that felt so real they left the nuns waking in a state of panic, their hearts pounding in their chests. Josephine woke in a cold sweat. Her nightgown clung to her body, drenched in perspiration. The images from her dreams lingered in her mind, haunting her even in the waking world. Her heart raced with terror. The dreams felt real. Evil whispered her name. She could hear it, clear as day, a voice that seemed to come from the very depths of hell, calling out to her, taunting her. She tried to ignore them. She prayed fervently, seeking solace in her faith. But the whispers persisted, growing louder and more insistent with each passing day. Tried to rationalize the events. She searched for logical explanations, hoping to find some semblance of normalcy. But the more she tried to understand, the more elusive the truth became. But deep down, a seed of fear was planted, a fear that grew with each passing day, taking root in her heart and mind. She could no longer deny the reality of the situation. Josephine was no longer safe. The abbey, once a sanctuary, had become a prison. She felt trapped, surrounded by an unseen evil that seemed to be closing in on her. Not even within the abbey walls. The very place that was supposed to offer protection and peace had become a battleground for her soul. The demonic had set its sights on her. It was relentless, determined to break her spirit and claim her as its own. And it wouldn't let go. The battle had just begun, and Josephine knew she would need all her strength and faith to survive the coming storm. Section 4. The Devil's Grip. Manifestations of Evil. In the heart of the old abbey, darkness began to take hold. The air grew thick with an unspoken dread, and the shadows seemed to whisper secrets of their own. The demonic intensified its grip on Josephine. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. They taunted her, mocked her faith. Every night the sinister voices would invade her thoughts, eroding her resolve and filling her with a paralyzing fear. She began to exhibit strange behaviors, speaking in tongues, exhibiting unnatural strength. The change was drastic. Her once gentle demeanor was replaced by erratic outbursts and violent episodes. She could lift objects that no human should be able to move, her strength defying all logic. The once serene nun now appeared tormented. Her face, once a picture of peace and devotion, now bore the marks of sleepless nights and endless torment. Her eyes, windows to her soul, reflected the chaos within. Her eyes held a haunted look. They were filled with a mixture of fear and defiance, as if she was fighting a battle that no one else could see. The other nuns could only watch in horror, powerless to help. The abbey was in turmoil. Rumors spread like wildfire. Was Sister Josephine possessed? The whispers among the nuns grew louder, each one more terrified than the last. The once sacred halls were now filled with fear and uncertainty. The possibility sent chills down their spines. The very thought that one of their own could be under the influence of such malevolent forces was almost too much to bear. They prayed for her, but their prayers seemed to go unanswered. The demonic presence grew stronger. It fed on their fear, growing bolder with each passing day. The shadows in the abbey seemed to take on a life of their own, moving and shifting in ways that defied explanation. More brazen in its attacks, objects flew across rooms, scratches appeared on walls. The very fabric of reality seemed to be unraveling around them. The nuns could only watch in horror as the abbey became a battleground for forces beyond their comprehension. The abbey echoed with unearthly growls. The sounds were unlike anything they had ever heard, a chilling reminder of the evil that had taken root in their midst. The once peaceful sanctuary was now a place of terror. Josephine became a prisoner in her own body. She was trapped with a malevolent entity that sought to destroy her from within. Her cries for help were met with silence, her pleas for mercy ignored. Trapped with a malevolent entity. The darkness that had taken hold of her was relentless, refusing to let go. It was a battle for her very soul, and she was losing. Her screams sent shivers down the abbey halls. Help was needed. The other nuns knew that they could not fight this evil alone. They needed someone who could confront the darkness head-on, someone who could save Josephine from the grip of the demonic. But who could fight such evil? The question hung in the air, a heavy weight on their hearts. They could only hope that help would come before it was too late. Section 5. The Price of Defiance. Josephine's Plight. Josephine's body became a battleground, her pure spirit, a captive. The demonic entity reveled in her torment. It twisted her words, her actions. Once a beacon of faith, she became an object of fear. Her cries for help echoed through the abbey halls, a chilling testament to her suffering. The nuns witnessed her agony with growing horror. Sleep offered no escape for Josephine. Nightmares plagued her, each more terrifying than the last. Visions of hellfire and demonic entities tormented her. She would wake up screaming, her body drenched in sweat. Her eyes, once filled with light, now reflected the abyss that threatened to consume her. She was trapped in a waking nightmare. Section 6. Isolation and Fear. The Abbey's Response. Fear gripped the abbey. The nuns, once sisters in faith, now looked at Josephine with a mixture of pity and terror. They whispered prayers for her deliverance, but their voices trembled with uncertainty. Some suggested she was a danger, a conduit for demonic forces. The abbey, once a sanctuary of peace, was now shrouded in an atmosphere of dread. The demonic presence lingered, casting a long, dark shadow over their lives. The laughter of children was replaced by hushed whispers. The joyful hymns of worship were now tinged with fear. The abbey, once a beacon of hope, had become a prison of fear. Section 7. The Power of Prayer. A Battle for Josephine's Soul. In the heart of the abbey, a fierce struggle was unfolding, one that would test the very limits of faith and endurance. The nuns rallied around their tormented sister, Josephine, whose soul was ensnared by a malevolent force. They knew that only through unity and unwavering faith could they hope to save her. They held fast to their faith, their prayers a shield against the darkness that threatened to engulf them. Each prayer was a beacon of light, pushing back the shadows that sought to consume Josephine. Day and night their voices rose in unison, a desperate plea for Josephine's soul. The abbey echoed with their chants and hymns, a symphony of hope and defiance against the encroaching evil. They clung to ancient rituals, believing in the power of their sacred traditions. These rituals, passed down through generations, were their lifeline, their connection to a higher power. The power of their faith resonated through the abbey, a palpable force that seemed to make the very walls hum with energy. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows, but the light of their faith shone brighter. But the demonic entity was relentless. It mocked their prayers, its sinister laughter echoing through the halls. It thrived on Josephine's suffering, growing stronger with each passing moment. Fueled by Josephine's torment, it grew stronger. Her pain was its sustenance, and it reveled in her despair. The nuns could see the toll it was taking on her, and their hearts ached with the need to save her. The battle for Josephine's soul raged. Light against darkness, faith against evil. It was a war fought not with swords but with prayers and hymns, with hope and love. Every prayer was a weapon, every whispered plea a strike against the darkness. The nuns knew that their faith was their greatest strength, and they wielded it with unwavering resolve. Every hymn a battle cry. Their voices, though weary, never faltered. They sang with a fervor that could only come from the deepest corners of their souls, each note a testament to their unyielding spirit. But the demonic entity was deeply entrenched. It had woven itself into the very fabric of Josephine's being, and it would not be easily dislodged. Its presence was a constant, oppressive weight, its grip on Josephine vice-like. She was caught in a battle she could not fight alone, her strength waning with each passing day. The nuns could see the fear in her eyes, and it only strengthened their resolve. The nuns refused to give up. Their determination was a force unto itself, a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. They stood firm, their faith unshakable, their love for Josephine unwavering. Their love for Josephine fueled their determination. They drew strength from each other, their bond a testament to the power of unity and sisterhood. Together, they were stronger than any force of darkness. They would fight for her until their last breath. Their commitment was absolute, their faith their guiding light. They knew that as long as they stood together, they had a chance. Their faith was their only weapon. It was a shield and a sword, a source of strength and comfort. They clung to it with all their might, knowing that it was their only hope, their only shield. It was a fragile thing, but it was enough to keep them going. They believed in the power of their prayers, in the strength of their faith, and in the possibility of a miracle. The fate of Sister Josephine hung in the balance. The outcome was uncertain, but the nuns knew one thing for sure. They would not stop fighting. They would not give up. For Josephine, for their faith, for the light that still shone in the darkness.